morning friends, welcome to the CEC-UGC live lecture. Dear friends, in this session today we would be talking on mental health. We would be discussing on what mental health is. We would be discussing on the concept of the mental health as well as would be discussing on educational implications of mental health. And for this very discussion, we have once again with us in our studios Dr. Parveen Sharma. Dr. Parveen Sharma is Associate Professor in Hindu College of Education, Sonipat. Dr. Sharma has immense, I would say, knowledge as well as she has contributed her 30 years to the field of education in the area of academics, and she's been teaching. Dear friends, we would like to share that she has authored numerous books and number of articles have been published in reputed journals both at national and international level. Many of her students are pursuing the PhD under her able guidance. So let's welcome Dr. Parveen Sharma and let's try to know what mental health is. Hello ma'am, welcome to Data Set Lecture.
Thank you Geetika ji. Good morning viewers and listeners. We know very well that there is a old proverb, healthy mind dwells in a healthy body, and both body and mind, they work together as a unit. But in the era of this competition, we know that with the advancement of science, man has become aware and conscious about physical health, but is not bothering about the mental health due to stress and competitions, lot of work, lot of activities. So there is stress and frustration everywhere. And man is not bothering about the mental health. यूँ कहिए कि जानकर भी अनजान बने हुए हैं. So we have to be aware about the mental health, because if a person is not feeling good or healthy mentally, then cannot work well in day-to-day activities. And how the body and mind, they are influencing each other, they are working together as a unit, is really important to know. It is important to know for every stakeholders, for students, for teachers, and every businessman and the persons in army, doctors, lawyers, everywhere in every field. So let us step by step try to know what do we actually mean by mental health, what are the causes which makes the mental health of a person poor, and what strategies individually we have to adopt to improve our mental health, and what are the factors which are lying behind it to making it poor, and what can be the role of the parents and what can be the role of the teachers in improving the mental health of the students, mental health of the youngsters. You know, we have to see both way, how to prevent and how to cure, meaning by from the very beginning to prevent the youngsters to keep their health balanced mentally and physically, and how to cure them if there is some problem. So let us see what do we actually mean by mental health. You know, mental health is a positive concept related to the social and emotional well-being of individuals and communities. The concept is culturally defined but generally relates to the enjoyment of life, ability to cope with stresses and sadness, the fulfillment of goals and potentials, and a sense of connection to others. As I have in the beginning spoken to you that ability to cope with stress, there are so many stresses. Sometimes stress at workplace, sometimes stress in the home or in a peer group. Everywhere one has to face the challenges in the life, one has to face the stresses. Sometimes this stress is going ahead, going further for the progress, not for the negative aspects all the time. So mental health is essential to cope with the stresses of the life, because these days we are facing so many anxieties, frustrations in a workplace, and you know, we feel that in these days there is like a mad race, like a rat race. Everyone wants to leave the other person behind, himself or herself, and sometimes the strategies which are used by the individuals are negative. So we have to see how the person can use the strategies in a positive manner and how one can cope with the stresses in life. See, the term mental health is often misunderstood and generally used. It is referring to mental ill health. Mental health is a desirable quality in its own right and is more than the absence of mental ill health. It is relevant to all people regardless of whether they are currently experiences or recovering from a mental illness. Sometimes we say or we misunderstood that mentally healthy is absence of any disease. No, it is not there that if there is no disease in the human being that he or she is mentally healthy. Harmonious working of all the potentials, all the aspects of the individual is the balanced personality. Sometimes you can come across the people who are working efficiently in their area, but they are not mentally healthy, because sometimes they get angry very easily and sometimes they are disturbed or frustrated, but in their relevant area they are working well. So we have to see how these people can cope with those kind of activities, those kind of stress, and what are the causes lying behind and what are the factors which are contributing to make the people more and more stressed. So we have to see good health depends on the state of both body and mind. Each directs a direct influence on other. A healthy person is not only physically healthy but also mentally healthy. Health means that both body and mind are working efficiently and harmoniously. Mental health is a basic factor that contributes to the maintenance of physical health as well as social effectiveness. If a person is well adjusted, he has good physical health and desirable social and moral values, his or her mental health is likely to be good. A person of good mental health is happy, healthy and hopeful. So we presume when a person is behaving in a happy manner, in a healthy manner, definitely the person is feeling healthy. It is not necessary that he or she is not having any disease. As I have spoken right now, that absence of any disease is not what we mean by mentally healthy person, meaning by the behavior of that person should be well adjusted. Everywhere one has to make adjustments. Sometimes that adjustment with the person himself or herself, sometime in the society, and human being make adjustments sometime by the individual needs and other time due to social needs. So one has to learn how to make adjustment. And my dear friends, when one human being, any person make adjustment, he is or she is not obliging the other person by making the adjustment of any kind, rather trying to seek happiness for himself or herself, because a man is not like an oak tree who can live alone. One has to live in the society, and the full development of the individual takes place when one interacts with the other human beings in the society. And during this process of interaction, one learns to adjust, and one learns to make so many sacrifices sometimes to make himself or herself happy and to contribute to the welfare of the other person, welfare of the community and welfare of the nation as a whole. See, we know very well that the World Mental Health Day is celebrated everywhere on the 10th of October. And see, in the next pic, the grief, anxiety, phobia, stress of any kind. Students are having stress of doing homework, sometimes stress of peer pressure, sometimes the depression, sometimes one becomes panic, maybe due to traffic, that you have to reach for writing in the examination and you are just stuck up in the jam, and then due to traffic jam you take stress, and sometimes you are not well prepared, and sometimes there is the pressure that you have to reach to the top level, and you feel more and more stress, and this kind of stress make the individual mentally ill and not able to cope with the stresses and not able to work well. And on the another side, when the person is not having stress, he is having positive attitude, he is mentally healthy, because there are many impulses, many desires, many wishes. When all these have the balance in the individual feels mentally healthy. See how the psychologist has defined the concept of mental health. There is a psychologist, namely Hadfield. He views that mental health is the full and harmonious functioning of the whole personality. There are so many aspects like individual, intellectual, and the physical, spiritual, social. When all these aspects work together in a harmony, then we can say that the person is mentally healthy and there is a harmonious development. Because if we see that a person is, there is a student who is securing 100% marks or good marks, but is not able to behave well in the society, is not disciplined and all the time angry or in a depression. So we cannot say that if one aspect, intellectual aspect of that individual is developed and other aspect is ignored, because we focus and we stress that all the aspects of the individual, when they work in harmony, we can say that the person is mentally healthy. Then according to WHO, World Health Organization, says that mental health is a state of complete physical, mental and social well-being, and not merely the absence of disease or infirmity. Again and again I am trying to focus on this, that if you ask someone that you are not mentally healthy, why you are in a depression, do you have some problem, the person may reply, no, I have no disease. So absence of disease does not mean that the person is mentally healthy. All the aspects which I have spoken about, physical, social, emotional, intellectual, they should be in balance, because we focus on the balanced personality of the individual. On the other side, we come across the other word, that is mental hygiene. Is it different from the mental health? Mental health hygiene is a strategy, is a way how one can be mentally healthy. It is a means of achieving mental health. D.B. Klein says mental hygiene is the study of ways and means of keeping the mind healthy and developing. And according to a famous psychologist, Boring, the aim of mental hygiene is to aid people to achieve more satisfying and productive life through the prevention of anxieties and maladjustments. See, I start with the explanation of the definition given by Mr. Boring, that prevention of anxieties. There are so many anxieties in the life, and when one does not get the fulfillment of the desires and goals and wishes, what happens? One becomes frustrated, one takes the stress, and one may go deep in the state of depression and not able to behave well. What happens? Then one loses the control over the emotion and does not know how to cope well with these anxieties. So mental hygiene is a study of the ways and means how to prevent a person by becoming mentally ill. So mental hygiene is a strategy how to prevent our youngsters to become mentally ill and to keep them mentally healthy, because we have to find out the strategies, and we have to see to what extent the individual himself or herself is responsible to spoiling his or her own mental health, and to what extent our community members, our society, our nation, our parents, our adults, our teachers, to what extent they are responsible. Because very well we know that the students, the youngsters are expressing, are behaving what they are receiving, because what do they receive, they are expressing. If they see that our adults, our parents, our teachers, they are well disciplined, definitely I feel that they will be disciplined, because they obey. Because I personally feel not in preaching, rather becoming an example, because if you set your example before the youngsters, definitely you can forcefully ask them to follow these aspects, these ideals. So I will say that parents and the teachers and the stakeholders in the community, our adults, they have to set the examples before the youngsters, how to prevent these anxieties, because we have to proceed further. We have to motivate our youngster to reach the top of the ladder, but not to add their anxieties and frustrations. So let them grow easily and conveniently at their own likings, at their own pace. There is a myth like mental illness is caused by weakness rather than a medical disorder. Psychiatric disorders are not true medical illness like heart disease, diabetes. People who have a mental illness are just crazy. And on the other side, this is a myth. And what is the fact? It is a medical condition that disrupts a person's thinking, feeling, mood, and ability to relate to others and daily functioning. Research shows that there are genetic and biological causes for psychiatric disorders, and they can be treated effectively. See, I want to explain it, that what is the thought which disrupts the thinking of the individuals, feeling of the individual, what is lying behind the thinking of the individual that takes or drags the individual deep into the depression. What is there? To what extent the thoughts of the individuals and the feelings of the individuals and action of the individual are responsible to making the individual mentally ill. So because right now I have said the individual himself or herself is also responsible to some extent to spoiling his or her own mental health. We'll talk about it. See in this pic, what are the physical symptoms? One is sick and run down, difficulty in sleeping, and then poor appetite, and then the muscle pain, weight loss, tired. And what happens after these physical symptoms? One keeps on thinking that nothing good ever happens to me. I'm not able to be successful in any of the field. Life is not worth living. My future looks black. I'm worthless. It is my fault. I am a failure. These are the thoughts after these physical symptoms. And then start feeling overwhelmed, unhappy, irritable, frustrated, lack confidence, and indecisive. And what happens the next after the physical symptom? Thought and feelings, behavior, withdraws from others, doesn't get things done, stop doing enjoyable activities, has difficulty in concentrating, and increased alcohol consumption maybe sometime in some cases. See, let me explain this. After these physical symptoms, the thought creates that kind of a feeling in the mind of the individuals, in the heart of the individual, that I am worthless, I am a poor fellow, in the sense I am not able to do the things successfully, and what is the worth of my life? Sometimes these thoughts, these feelings drag the individual into the extreme situation, may think of start doing the suicide and these kind of the which we come across in our day-to-day life, crime or the suicide or the killing or just snapping the other person. These type of thinkings take place, and the individual starts behaving in an abnormal manner. And what happens? Sometime the individual starts withdrawing himself and does not meet or does not interact with the people in the society, and wants to live in a loneliness, feeling of loneliness, wants to live alone and not interacting with the other people, and just drag away from the goal which he or she has decided. So these kinds of thoughts and feelings take the individual deep into the depression. See, symptoms of mental health. Sometimes we become hyperactive. So we have to be conscious about our goals, but we do not need to be hyperactive. Sometimes we disorganize the things in our mind and in our day-to-day activities. And sometimes by some thoughts, by some persons, some memories, we distract ourselves. We have our own target to reach the goal, to reach the destination, but some activities, some persons, some happening, sometime distract us from our goal. So we have to see what are those points, what are those persons, what are those memories which are distracting us from our goal. And sometimes there is a tendency of forgetting the things and disinhibition. So these kind of symptoms, they drag the individual towards the mental illness. Then what is the need of mental hygiene? When we have come to know that mental health is important if one is physically well, but if not mentally healthy, will not be able to perform the day-to-day activities. So what is the need of mental hygiene? As we have come to know that mental hygiene is the study of ways and means how to prevent the individual to become mentally ill, and if one becomes, then how to cure that individuals, maintaining balance and social complexity. You know, one has to live the life in a balance, because the nature itself, in prakriti का भी नियम है कि there is a balance, like climate, sometimes there is winter and the summer and the other seasons. Why? Because there is a need of balance in day-to-day life also. So understanding the mental disorder is important. If we come across a person that there is a mental disorder and problems of adjustment, why that particular individual is not able to make adjustment in the society, in the class, with his peer group, with his elders. So what is the cause of that mental disorder? Sometimes mental rapid spread of mental disorder, sometimes this mental disorder just it becomes a chain in other activities also. And this kind of need of studying the mental hygiene or knowing the importance of mental hygiene is essential, not at the local level, rather at international level, because we want to establish the peace at international level. We have to create international understanding among our youngsters, among the generations. So there is a need at international level to create that balance, essential for parents. And this mental hygiene concept is to be understood definitely by the parents also, because if the parents are not creating a balanced environment, a congenial environment at home, that definitely the children are going to be mentally imbalanced. And there is a need in the industry and in the armed forces. We have to select our soldiers in the army. So we have to see there are so many intelligence tests and personality tests to select the personals in the army, because we need the persons, we need the soldiers and officers in army who are mentally healthy, who are physically healthy. So we need balanced personality. So this concept is essential for the army persons and for the industry persons, because these days the industries, when I just give counseling for to the students, then when you go in the industry or in any organization, they prefer the persons who are mentally healthy and who can make adjustment and who are having the positive attitude, because competency or efficiency can be increased at there in the industry or there in the army or in the any relevant area, but the person should have a balanced approach, positive attitude towards life, and one must be mentally healthy, ready to make adjustment. And it is essential for managers also, when we have to select the personals in any area, we have to see that the person should be mentally healthy. What is the relationship between mental health and mental hygiene? The purpose of mental health in conjunction with mental hygiene is to lead the individual towards a happier and fuller life. And mental hygiene aims at developing self-understanding within the individual. It also makes an effort to use the individual's potentials for his or her good mental health. Mental hygiene in education provides conditions for achieving good mental health. See, what is the need? If we talk about the need in education area, when the teachers have to develop the personality of the students, has to see that what are the conditions which are the essential to create the person, to develop the personality of the individuals. So teacher has to be conscious that what are the conditions which are responsible to make the person mentally healthy, and what are the factors and what are the strategies, and how as a teacher I can set example of myself to become an ideal for my students. So mental hygiene is important for developing the mental health of our youngsters, mental health of our students. Again and again, I want to bring it to focus to my listeners, to my viewers, that it is essential that for the development of the nation, for the progress of the nation, we need the persons who are mentally healthy, who think well, without any prejudice, without prejudice of any kind like race and caste and color, without any, because humanity has to be set at the top of all the thoughts, all the feelings. What are the aims of mental hygiene? First is the preventive aim. First of all, we have to prevent, we have to take the measures that our students, our youngsters should be away from any kind of mental disorder. So first aim is the preventive aim. We have to create such kind of conditions which promote the mental health of our youngster. Then preservative, and after this we have to be cautious about this preservative aim, like we have to make balance of those conditions which take our youngsters to the process of, or to the path of the progress. Then curative aim, if somehow due to any personal reasons, maybe if for example there is a child who is from broken home, or is having some injury, or is having some mishap, or some other bad experience, due to that if there is some kind of mental disorder in the person, then we can cure that person. I'll talk about that. First of all, the individual has to identify, then parents has to identify, then teachers, and if there is extreme situation, then we can take the person to the hospital to the specialist persons. Then last is the harmonious functioning and adjustive aim. We have to see that our youngsters, our students have a capability of adjustment to the himself or herself and to the other members also, because when we make adjustment, we are seeking happiness for ourselves also, and we can take the nation to the path of the progress, and we can create national understanding and international understanding. So this concept of mental hygiene is important to keep the mental health of the individual, and I hope viewers and listeners have become aware of it and have realized the importance of mental health that it is important to know for the individual what is the important and what are the precautions, what are the measures I have to take for myself, and how the parents has to understand the importance of mental health, and how the other stakeholders and teachers have to realize that the mental health is important, because again I'll say that the mentally healthy person can take the nation towards the progress. Thank you very much. Good afternoon, viewers and listeners. In this session, we'll further talk about what is the role of the parents and what is the role of the teachers to develop the good mental health among our youngsters. See, first we'll discuss what are the elements of mental hygiene. First element is the physical health. Physical health must be good, because if one is not physically well, will not be able to work well, because the body and mind, they work as a unit. Then the second is the intellectual health, and it is presumed that the person who is intelligent can make the adjustment very well. So it is important, then one must be intelligent. And the emotional health. The third element of mental hygiene is the emotion. You know, our emotions play a significant role in our day-to-day life activities also, because there are so many impulses, desires, attitude, interest. They work together. When they work in a harmonious manner, and when there is the coordination in our emotions, then the person will remain mentally healthy and will be excited and motivated to make more and more, and to make productive work, creative work. Then interest and aptitude. Our interest and our aptitude, this is also very important. Suppose there are these days for every admission there are the aptitude test, because suppose you have to select the persons who can go in the teaching profession. So there is the test of teaching aptitude. Suppose there is the test to become the teachers, and you apply teaching aptitude, and you find that person is not fit for or not having potentials for teaching aptitude, then you can suggest that you can go in another profession, because there are the aptitude. When you have to select the personals for army, you have to test that aptitude whether the person is fit for army or not. In the same way, we have to see whether the individual is fit for going into that profession or not. That is what we mean by aptitude, because aptitudes are within the individual. And the interest are also very important. If you assign the task to the individual according to the individual's interest and aptitude, that the person definitely is going to work in a healthy and happy manner. So these are the elements of mental hygiene. Then what causes mental illness? We have to find out what are the factors which causes mental illness, because to some extent we are responsible. See, what are the factors? Causes of mental ill health. First, the first cause of mental ill health is the poverty. Due to poverty, when individual is not happy and the daily needs are not fulfilled of any individual, in that atmosphere one will not remain happy. So how can we expect in these circumstances that one can work efficiently? Then the presence of stepfather or the mother. If one belongs to a broken house, is likely to remain in a depressive mood. So that kind of depression may not allow the individual to work well. Then overprotection of parents. Sometimes I have seen the families where the parents are protective more than the required. You have to support the children, but do not become overprotective. Let the child grow at his or her own pace, and let him choose the profession or the activities according to his or her own interest. Then discriminatory treatment towards the children. Sometimes there is the difference in the dealing with the children. Then very high ideals of parents. Potentials to become are lying within the individual. Sometimes I have seen in the counseling session, when I talk to the persons who have some mental problems or mental disorder, then students tell me that I am in depression because my parents have high aspirations and high ideals towards me, but I am not able to do this thing, so I am feeling bad. Suppose if I am not able to do this thing, or if I am not able to achieve at this target, what my parents will think, and the person may go deep in depression. So parents has to be conscious about this, that realize the potentials and interest of your children, and do not place high ideas on the shoulders, on the mind of your children, and do not make them overstressed. Let them grow according to their own ideas, according to their own aspirations. Then the neighborhood. It is a old proverb that one is known by the company he or she keeps. So in what kind of neighborhood we are living, that also matters, because sometimes when we don't have good company, we don't have good neighbors, then one is likely to feel bad, and bad feelings or the ill will just takes place in the mind of the youngsters. Bad company, we have to time and again make cautious our children that stay away from the bad company or the bad films or uncongenial school atmosphere. Sometimes there is the atmosphere in the school is not congenial, because some children, they just bully the other children, and sometimes I have seen the groups. Then if one individual or a group of youngsters, they are not good at studies and they are not doing well, and on the other side, when they see the other child, other student doing well, they start bullying him. Oh, ye to bada padhaku hai, he is like a bookworm, and this kind of comments, when these kinds of comments become satirical, sometime the child may feel bad and stop working. So sometimes this kind of school atmosphere spoil the progress, or just stop the progress of the child. So there these days the counselors are there in the schools. They can approach to the counselor, can approach to the head, can approach to the teacher, so that the teacher can find out some strategy. Other causes of mental illness are genetic, sometimes family history, because we inherit the genes from our parents. Sometimes this is a family history, that there is a mental disorder in the adults, and it transmits in the other generation. Small increased risk, most people do not have some family members affected, and sometimes it is. Sometimes status in past and present, like difficult family background, like abuse, sexual, domestic violence. Sometimes in extreme cases, that the father is a drunkard and starts beating and abusing the family members. Then emotional disturbance, physical disturbance, financial disturbance, there is the money crisis, and the torturing. Then stressful life events, work, family, marriage, there is stress of marriage, stress of work, stress of getting job, relationship difficulties, because these days the ego issues are taking place, and youngsters, they are not having the tolerance power, they are not making adjustment. That's why the cases of divorce are increasing day by day. Then the financial crisis, because needs are increasing day by day. When we have limited resources and we have more needs, and there comes the stress or the other disturbances in the mind. Then the physical illness, head injury, long-term physical illness, epilepsy, or long-term substance abuse, these are causes which create the mental illness, which are the causes of illness. See in this pic, as I have talked to you, that sometimes some children, they bully the other child. In this pic, it is seen that the child, after being bullied by the other students, is feeling lonely, feeling sad, and feeling depressed. What should I do? Whom do I approach? I have talked about other things. Now I would talk to you what are the characteristics of mentally healthy person. How can we identify that a person is mentally healthy? First, effective self-perception. Self-perception is very important. Self-image. This is an image, what we place on ourselves. What do we think about ourselves? Because it is very important that we think good about ourselves, because when we have a positive attitude about our image, our respect, our esteem, then we stay healthy, and we will be in a healthy mood or happy mood, and we will be having a motivation of doing the work. Then self-esteem and self-acceptance. Self-acceptance, we have to accept our limitations also. We have to accept our shortcomings also. Sometimes we want to listen our praise only, and we do not want to realize our limitation, that this thing I can't do. We have to be ready for self-acceptance. This is very important. As soon as the person realizes about himself or herself, self-acceptance help the individual to remain mentally healthy and happy. Then control of behavior. The persons who are mentally healthy, they have the control over their behavior. Sometimes it is said, or most of the time it is said, that we do not have control on our anger. No, we have. We do not get angry over our loved ones. We do not get angry on our boss or the persons who are high in our hierarchy. But when in extreme cases, when there is loss of control on the anger, then we have to take that person to the psychiatrist, to the doctors. But otherwise, the mentally healthy person, they have the control on behavior, true perception of the world. It is not genuine if one always lives in a state of fantasy. We have to realize what is the truth in the world, because we have to interact with the different kind of people. So you have to be honest, but you have to see how the world is like, and we have to be ready to make adjustment and compromises, because people are different. Sustaining relationship and giving affection. If we have to sustain our relationship, we have to give affection to others also, because love gets love and respect gets respect. This is an old saying, this is an old proverb. Self-direction and productivity. The mentally healthy person, they can give this direction to the self and they can be productive, they can be creative, which is beneficial for the individual and for the nation as well as and for the international level also. The ability to enjoy life. ऐसा कहा जाता है कि 84 लाख योनियों में एक बार मनुष्य योनि मिली है. सो वी हैव टू सी दैट हाउ टू एंजॉय लाइफ, बिकॉज इफ ऑल द टाइम वी आर गिविंग more and more stress to ourselves, it is not fair, because the mentally healthy person has the ability to enjoy life. Then the resilience, what is it? To have the ability to bounce back, to cope with the stresses of the life. Then flexibility, mentally healthy person have a flexible approach to the life. Self-actualization is the another characteristics of mentally healthy person, and above all the last one is the balance in life. We need balance in our life, physical aspect, emotional, social, and economic aspect. Each and every aspect have to be in balance, and there must be a harmonious and balanced functioning of all these aspects. Only then we will identify, we will call that this person is a mentally healthy person. See, what are the factors which affect our mental health? Self-esteem, that is very important. This is the image we place on ourselves. We have to respect ourselves, our dignity. So when a person is having good esteem about himself, then the person will remain healthy, feeling loved. If one individual is getting love and affection and respect, then we'll be happy, because most of the time you see that no one is totally introvert, no one is totally extrovert. Person is most of the time ambivert. When you are getting love, you become extrovert. When you are getting rejected in the society or in a group, you become introvert. You just sit in the corner and do not interact with anyone. So feeling of loved is very important to stay healthy. Then the confidence, as I have spoken to you right now, that overprotective behavior of the parents may diminish the confidence of the children. So the confidence is a factor which affects the mental health of the youngsters. Then family breakup or loss is also important, is also a factor which affect the mental health of the individual. Then difficult behavior, sometimes one individual is not ready to make sacrifice or make adjustment. He or she thinks that everyone should obey me all the time. It cannot happen, because you have to make balance, and if that kind of difficult behavior is there, one cannot stay happy, and we will not say that the person is mentally healthy. So that behavior is also a factor to affect mental health. Then physical ill health, if one is having some injury, mental injury, physical injury, or a long illness, we can expect from that individual that because that individual is having that problem physically or mentally. So that's why some of the time or most of the time the behavior of that person is becoming difficult. So we will not call such kind of a person mentally healthy. So when you have to deal with such person, you have to be cautious, you have to make sacrifice that the person is going through or passing through a post injury or post disease, or during that time he or she is having that disease. So we have to be cautious to deal with that kind of difficult behavior of those individuals. Then abuse, sometimes there is a atmosphere of abusing each other, so that kind of abusing behavior is a major factor of making the health of the individual poor one. Then principles of mental health. Now we have to see what are the principles, how the strategies can be adopted to improve the health of the individual. We can categorize them in two categories. First principle is making adjustment with oneself, because most of the time one has to make adjustment with oneself, then adjustment with the society members, because all the time the things, the dreams which you want is not fulfilled. So you have to make adjustment. If all the time you are getting angry and frustrated or when your needs are not fulfilled, then you are a problem for yourself and for the others also. So you have to make adjustments. See how? The self knowledge. First of all, one has to be aware, one has to should be having knowledge about the self, that these are my aspirations, these are my limitations, these are my resources, this I can do and this I cannot do. So this way self knowledge is very important. Then self acceptance. The second principle of making adjustment with oneself is this self acceptance. We have to accept ourselves. What are my resources and what are my problems and what are the lacuna in my behavior? How can I improve that? Be thyself. Socrates, the great philosopher, has also given us the principle, know thyself, be thyself. So we have to know about ourselves, who I am, what I am doing, what are the creative work, what are the creative or productive things I am doing for myself, I am doing for the society, before expecting from the others what I have been doing for the others. So without expecting from the others, see what I am doing for the nation, for the others. Self-control. Self-control, self-discipline is very important. When we have a control on ourselves in any area, then that kind of person can reach to the higher ladder or the top of the ladder, because one is having control on the self. Then integrating the self. Integrating the self means when one is having the capability of making integration of all the aspects, physical aspects, intellectual, spiritual, emotional, all the aspects are being integrated within the individual, then one is able. Self-shaping. Shape your destiny or shape your career according to your choice, according to your attitude. Do not allow the other person to shape your life, to shape or decide. Because I always say, don't give the key of your happiness in the hands of other person, because most of the time when I ask the students why you are in a depression, they say that that person has spoiled my mood, he said this to me. So why you are giving the key of your happiness in the hands of the other person? Have a control on yourself. You just try to know how to deal with such person. So you should have the capability of shaping your mood. Don't allow the other person to become or to bring the mood swings, because then there is no loss of the other person. Rather that loss is to you. Balancing the level of aspiration. One has to see that to be ambitious is good, but when we make the unrealistic goals, unrealistic desires, then it creates the unhappiness or it brings depression or stress for the individual. So one has to see what are the realistic goals, what are my resources, what are my capabilities, and how much I am putting the effort. Because if you set the aspiration, you set the goals and you are not putting the effort in, then what will happen? The result will be depression. You see, I have to reach at this top position and you are not doing something, you are not putting your effort, then definitely you will go in the frustration, in the depression. If you have set the goals, it should be realistic in the manner. When I say set the realistic goal, I mean when you set the goal, try to put the efforts of that level to bring or to make realize that goal, then you will stay happy. Then balancing development, you need balance. So you should stay happy and try to know what I am doing, what can I do. So all the aspects of the life, there should be balance. Now this was how a person can make adjustment with himself or herself. Now I will talk about the principles of seeking adjustment with the environment, because sometimes we work according to individual needs, and sometime or most of the time we make sacrifices because we are living in the society. We have to make adjustment in the society. First is the positive attitude, because I have spoken to you that you may have gone for your interview in the college, in the institution, in the army, in the legal area, in the hospital, in the industry, wherever you go. When the board will select you, they will see your attitude, whether you have a positive attitude towards the profession, towards the life, then you will be selected only. So my dear friends, my dear listener, it is important to know that to stay healthy, it is important. If you want to make adjustment with the environment, you have to stay positive. Your attitude should be positive. Then creative experience, because our behavior is nothing in itself. Our behavior depends or being influenced by the experiences which we get, the behavior or the remarks of the other individual. So creative experience should be there. Then the scientific approach. What do we mean here by scientific approach? Cause and effect relationship. If somewhere you find that the person is having depression or stress, there must be some cause. So find out that cause. Where was the cause? If there is some argument or some quarrel or some dispute between the two members, in counseling session we ask, just go back and try to remember, try to realize what happened, what the other person said, how the person provoked you, and why you said, and why the quarrel started, what was the reason. So cause and effect relationship is the scientific approach. Then training the emotions of love, anger, hatred, affection, sacrifice, pity. All the emotions are there in all the individuals, all the human beings on this earth. The important thing is the balance of the emotions. Education teaches us how to control the emotions and how to express, and where to control the emotions particularly, and where to express that emotions in general or in particular. So balancing or training the emotion is important. We ourselves have to identify, have to realize how to train our emotions, and the same manner it is important for the adults, for the teachers and for the parents to train the emotions, because these are this is the training of our emotions which make us or which help us to make adjustment with the environment. Then socializing the self. It is important when we are living in the society, we have to be socialized. What was the reason that Bhagwan Shri Krishna and Bhagwan Shri Rama also went to the Gurukul to take the Shiksha and Diksha? So many teachers could come in their palace, but they were sent because it was considered when they will interact with the peer group or the other children of their age group, they will learn how to be socialized. So by taking the example of Lord Krishna and Lord Rama, we can come to know that it is very essential to socialize the self, because so many things we learn in the society. To understand others, it is important to understand the others. Facing the stresses of life is also important. Now I'll discuss what is the role of parents. Provide proper love and affection to the child. Don't be overprotective. Provide conducive environment in home, because our environment, what kind of environment or atmosphere we are giving to our children in the home is a major factor of their good mental health. Do not criticize the child. Sometimes I have seen when we have a gathering before in the presence of the other friends or relatives, we start criticizing our child, we just rebuke, and sometimes we try to teach in the presence of others. Do not criticize, do not teach your child in the presence of the other friends or relatives. Do not compare the child with the other children, because this will create a sense of depression and stress in the mind of the child, and sometimes the child is forced to become revengeful in that condition. Do not reject your child, do not be over anxious about the future of the child. This is very important factor on which I want to talk to you. Sometimes parents become over anxious, and in the presence of the children they talk and keep on talking with other friends in the presence of the child. Oh, I am worried about his future, I am worried about her future. So it brings more and more stress. Rather motivating your child, you are bringing the stress to the child. So my dear listeners, be careful, don't talk about much about the future. Motivate your child, but in the presence of others all the time do not talk about your worries about the future of the child. Rather say, no, I know, I'm sure about the capabilities of my child, she will do, or he will do, they will be able to do. So this way, give the good environment, boost up them, then try to be democratic in your dealings, don't be authoritative, and build self-confidence of the child, because this is your behavior which will build up the self-confidence. And the last is the happy teachers, happy students, happy school, raised attainment and achievement. And lastly, role of the teachers. Democratic environment is essential, and provision of co-curricular activities, because we have not to make our students a bookworm. We have to organize the creative or co-curricular activities so that their potentials may take place. Freedom of expression should be there. You have to create democratic environment. There should be variety of interest, and you have to provide good reading material, because these days students are not motivated to make their original, or they do not go to the library, they do not read much. Provision for moral education is also essential. I hope, see in this pic, if I would conclude that if one is not able to identify the strategies, and parents are also not able to identify, or the teachers is also lacking, then in the extreme situation we can take such kind of individuals to the psychiatrist, to the specialist, so that mental health remain in balance. So my dear viewers and listeners, I hope this will be beneficial for all and everyone, because not for the students and teachers only, it is essential for everyone to know how to stay happy and healthy, because if we are mentally healthy, only then we can walk well. Thank you very much.
With this note, thank you ma'am, thank you so very much. And dear friends, I hope that you have liked today's lecture. If you wish to have a lecture on a particular topic, then you can mail us at info.cc@nic.in. This lecture is going to be uploaded on YouTube. Keep watching us, keep writing us. Our email ID is info.cc@nic.in. We would again soon. Till then, take care, goodbye. Thank you ma'am, thank you so much.
Thank you listeners, thank you Geetika ji.